every neighborhood has that house. The one no one rents for long. The one whose curtains never move. The one that looks awake even at 3 a.m. For Lauren, it was 118 Sycamore Lane, a 2-story home with yellow siding and one dim light that always burned in the upstairs window, every night, for years. When she moved into the neighborhood, the locals had only one rule: don't look at the window too long, it looks back. She laughed it off. Urban legends, old gossip, until her third night. It was 2:47 a.m. Her dog, Milo, started growling at the wall facing that very house. Then, her nightlight, which was motion activated, flicked on, even though the room was still. Lauren went to the window. The light in the upstairs room of 118 was still glowing, like always, but this time, something was different. The curtain wasn't just swaying, it was tapping against the glass, tap, 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 in a slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. And then she saw it, not clearly, just the faintest outline of a face, pressed right against the inside of the glass. Watching her, she froze. The tapping stopped. The light in that window flickered. Once, twice, then off. She should have felt relief, but Milo whimpered, staring at the dark window. And in the reflection of her own glass, she saw a new light, this time coming from behind her, inside her own living room. Lauren didn't move. Her reflection in the window looked frozen, eyes wide, breath shallow, while that faint yellow glow flickered behind her in the living room. "Milo, stay," she whispered. She turned slowly. The lamp on her side table was off. The TV was off, but the light, that same sickly yellow hue from the house across the street, was now leaking through her living room wall, as if it had bled straight through the bricks. She stepped closer. The air smelled faintly of mildew and something electric, like old wires overheating. Then she noticed something else. Her shadow, cast on the wall by the light, wasn't matching her movements. When she lifted her hand, it lifted too slowly. When she turned her head, it twitched before following. And behind her shadow was another, a taller one. She spun around, nothing. Just her couch, the empty hallway, the low hum of her refrigerator. But the yellow light on the wall pulsed once, a soft heartbeat, and vanished. Silence. She checked the window again. The house across the street was dark now. No lights, no tapping curtains. Yet she could still feel it staring. The next morning, she decided to ask someone about it. At the corner cafe, she found an old man who'd lived there longer than anyone should. When she mentioned 118 Sycamore, his hands trembled. He wouldn't look at her. "That house doesn't rest," he said. "When the light goes out, it means it's walk-in." Lauren laughed nervously. "Walk-in?" He looked up then, eyes glassy, unfocused. "The house moves when no one's watching. Sometimes. It follows the ones who notice it." That night, she came home to find Milo scratching at the door. The air smelled the same again, damp, electric. And when she looked outside, her heart dropped. There were tire marks, long, fresh, across the street, leading directly from 118 Sycamore Lane to her driveway. By morning, the tire marks were still there, dark, wet streaks, leading straight from 118 Sycamore to her front yard. Except, there had never been a driveway in front of that house. Lauren stood frozen at her window, clutching her coffee cup. Milo barked once, short, panicked, then ran under the couch. The air was colder than usual. like a storm had passed through inside the house. She stepped outside, and that's when she saw it. Across the street, where 118 Sycamore had always stood, there was nothing. No foundation, no grass flattened by its weight, just bare soil. The entire house was gone. She blinked, heart pounding, thinking maybe the fog was playing tricks on her. But when she turned back toward her own yard, her breath stopped. Her mailbox, once standing a few feet from her door, was crushed flat, and something huge, unseen, had left long drag marks across her lawn, as though a building had slid silently into place overnight. She looked up, and there it was, the house from across the street, 118 Sycamore, now sat directly next to hers, crooked, tilted, windows shattered but glowing faintly from within, and that upstairs window, the one that had always burned yellow, was facing her bedroom. Lauren stumbled backward, whispering, No, this isn't possible." But the front door of the old house creaked open, slowly, deliberately. Inside, there was nothing but dark hallways and faint whispers echoing through the wood. She should have run. Instead, she stepped closer. With every step, the air grew heavier, thicker, like walking into someone else's breath. A faint hum came from inside, low and rhythmic, like snoring, or maybe breathing. When she reached the doorway, something glinted on the floor, a photo frame lying face down. She picked it up with shaking hands and turned it over. It was a picture of her house, the same front porch, the same cracked steps, but in the photo, her lights were off, and someone stood in her upstairs window, someone with the same outline as her. She dropped the frame and ran, but as she reached her door, she froze again, because from her own house, she could now hear that slow tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. From the upstairs window, the tapping grew louder, not random, steady, measured, almost intentional, like someone counting. Tap, pause, tap, tap, pause. Lauren stood frozen at her doorway, 1 foot outside, 1 foot inside, caught between her home and the thing pretending to be one. Milo whimpered from upstairs. That sound, small, scared, desperate, snapped her into motion. She ran inside, calling his name. The moment she crossed the threshold, the air changed. It felt thicker, heavier, wrong. The lights flickered in a strange rhythm, not from electrical failure, but like they were breathing. She climbed the stairs, every step echoing twice, once under her feet, once a second later, from somewhere deeper in the walls. When she reached the landing, the light above her pulsed a dull yellow. Her heart sank. That wasn't her bulb. That was the same yellow light from the other house. She slowly turned her head toward her bedroom door. It was half open, and from inside came that faint, low hum, like a deep sleep breath. Steady, slow, alive. "Milo," she whispered. A shadow moved under the door, too tall, too still. She pushed the door open. Her room was exactly the same, and completely different. The walls weren't hers anymore. They were the same decaying wallpaper from 118 Sycamore, the same sagging ceiling, the same burned lamp. Her house had become half hers, half it, and on her bed, lying perfectly still, was Milo, eyes open but glassy, like a photograph that could blink. On the wall across from him, the yellow light was glowing again, not from a lamp this time, but from behind the wallpaper itself. She reached out, trembling, and pressed her hand against it. It was warm. Then something pressed back, a shape, a hand, and then she heard her own voice whisper through the wall. shouldn't have let it in. The wallpaper split open, peeling itself like skin. Behind it, wood, nails, and eyes. Hundreds of them. Every eye blinked once in perfect unison, and the whole house exhaled. Lauren stumbled back, gasping for air, as both houses began to shift, wood groaning, windows rattling, floors moving like muscles tightening beneath her feet. The walls pulsed again, and then the hum became words. We don't sleep, and now neither do you. Sound filled every wall now. Not wind, not pipes. It was breathing, deep, labored, wet breaths, coming from the floorboards, the vents, the walls. Lauren stumbled backward, her palms pressing against trembling plaster that felt warm beneath her touch, like skin flushed with fever. "Milo!" she screamed, voice cracking. Her dog didn't move. His eyes stayed open, reflecting the pulsing yellow glow that now flickered across the entire room. The ceiling light swung slowly, like a pendulum, spreading distorted shadows that didn't match her movements anymore. And then she heard it. Lao Ren. Her name, whispered softly, drawn out, like the house was testing how it sounded. The walls bent inward, pictures twisted on their hooks. Her reflection in the hallway mirror turned to look at her a full second late, smiling faintly even though she wasn't. TT. Lauren ran down the stairs, across the living room toward the door. But the hallway seemed to stretch with every step, like she was running inside a throat that didn't end. Every bulb burst at once. The light vanished, except one, that yellow glow. The cursed upstairs light of 118 Sycamore was now shining from inside her house, through the cracks of her front door. She reached for the handle. It was pulsing under her hand, as if it had a heartbeat. "Stay," the house breathed. "You woke me. You belong to me." The walls began to ripple. Faces pushed through the wallpaper. Old, sunken, some smiling, some crying. Their mouths opened and closed in sync, whispering her name. Lauren. Lauren. She screamed and pulled the door, and stepped out into nothing. No street, no neighbors, no sky. Just rows and rows of houses, all identical, all awake, stretching endlessly under a yellow horizon. Every window glowing, every curtain moving, every one of them breathing. She turned to look behind her, but there was no her house anymore. Only 118 Sycamore Lane, perfectly still, perfectly waiting. From its upstairs window, the curtain moved once more. A figure stood there, same hair, same posture, staring out. Lauren raised a trembling hand. The figure did the same, and when it smiled, she realized the house hadn't just taken her. It had become her. Now it would wait for the next one to move in, because the house never sleeps. It only dreams new names. 15 years later, Sycamore Lane had changed. Fresh asphalt, trimmed lawns, new families. No one talked about the old house anymore. The city had painted it over, rebuilt the porch, even gave it a new number. Now it was 120 Sycamore Lane. A young couple stood in the front yard, hands clasped, smiling. "Perfect for starting fresh," the realtor said brightly, jingling the keys. New wiring, new floors, new everything. And the previous owner left behind a few antiques upstairs. Bonus, right? The couple nodded. The husband, Mark, glanced at the windows. All the lights already work. The realtor frowned. They shouldn't. Power hasn't been turned on yet. Mark looked again. Upstairs, faint but steady. A yellow light glowed behind the curtain. "Probably sunlight," his wife said quickly. Come on, let's see inside. The door opened with a sigh. Cool air drifted out, still, heavy, carrying the faint scent of damp wood and something sweet, almost floral. As they explored, the floorboards creaked after their steps, like something else was following, half a beat behind. In the bedroom, they found an old lamp sitting on the dresser. Its bulb was cracked, wires rusted, but when the wife brushed the dust off, it flickered on. Yellow. Mark laughed nervously. Okay, that's weird. Must be battery powered or something. He unplugged it, but the light stayed on. Then the wall beside it breathed, a faint, inward sigh. Soft, almost human. They both froze. The wife whispered, "Did you feel that?" But Mark wasn't listening. He was staring at the mirror, because in it, behind them, he could see another reflection. A woman standing in the doorway, her head tilted, her eyes glassy and wide, her smile faint, patient. When he turned, the doorway was empty. Only the slow sound of tap, tap, tap came from somewhere inside the walls. Outside, the for sale sign tipped over in the wind. Its edge scraped across the wood, and for a brief moment, it sounded exactly like someone whispering, "Welcome home." As night fell, every light on Sycamore Lane went dark, except one. That upstairs yellow glow, burning, steady, waiting.